Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Well, let's take a look at some of the stocks on the move today here in Europe. I'm Caroline Hepker and I'm joined by Bloomberg reporter Chloe Millay. Happy Friday, Chloe.
Happy Friday to you.
Almost at the end of the week. But actually some huge moves this Friday. In particular, Moncler, the kind of fancy clothing brand, rising the most since September 2024. What has propelled that?
Yeah, well, it has reported a very, very strong earnings. So the fourth quarter results were significantly ahead of expectations for the maker of those high-end puffer jackets, that winter luxury. So there was in particular a lot of strength in the Chinese market, which is obviously a very key market for the luxury sector because it's a massive market to begin with, but it's also one that has struggled lately. So any indication of it doing better is taken very well usually. And so the fact that Moncler performs so well in China was seen as very reassuring and explains that big boost in the shares that we saw this morning. And the results have also driven the shares in other luxury names higher. So we had LVMH actually also in the green this morning, Christian Dior also in the green. So we are definitely getting that kind of read across. And all of the big luxury companies in Europe have now reported. We just have Prada that is left. And so far it's been a little bit of a mixed bag maybe. So we had LVMH issuing quite a cautious outlook. But then the rest did actually pretty well. We had turnaround plans and Kering and Burberry starting to pay off. We have the super high-end market occupied by Hermes also still in very good shape. So we'll have to see how the rest of the year turns out.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you spot that Moncler did make one of the uniforms for one of the teams at the Italian Winter Olympics?
I did not see that.
Did you not? Team Brazil, if you want to have a
nice
look. Yeah, and they were obviously kind of large, sweeping puffer jackets in kind of white and silver. Anyway, there you go. Bit of fashion on the side as we see that share price increase. Okay, something, well, maybe more mundane. Construction firm Kingspan also up today, reporting record revenue. How's that come about?
Yeah, it's a little bit more mundane, but it's actually very interesting. So it reported record revenue, and that is thanks to its exposure to data centers. So the data center business was very strong, and that was able to offset some of the weakness in residential and industrial end markets. And it's really interesting because it's part of this broader trend that we've seen among industrial companies in Europe, where they're really benefiting from that exposure to those AI data centers, and that proving to be a bit of a saving grace for them because the rest of their end markets are much weaker. So we saw that with the French infrastructure firm Vinci, for example, the Swedish company Skanska. Both of them are involved in those really big data center projects, and that is really driving growth because the housing market, where they're also involved, is a lot weaker in Europe. It also applies to chemicals firms. So we had Sika, for example, which provides chemicals for the construction industry, reporting today as well, and they had a really strong margin guidance, and a lot of that is being driven by the data center business. So there's really this wider trend that we're seeing that is definitely worth watching, where the data center exposure is proving to be really beneficial for those companies.
Okay, so that's Kingspan. Danone reported higher sales in the fourth quarter. And again, this is quite interesting. It's about nutrition and sort of medical kind of applications for yogurts.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had the sales coming in higher than expectations. And as you mentioned, because of really strong demand for medical nutrition products, but then also for high protein products, with part of this kind of protein craze that we've seen lately. And obviously Danone yogurts are very popular. But then the shares were a little bit weaker this morning. That is because volumes actually missed. So sales beat, but volumes missed. And then there's also this continued impact of this infant formula recalls that is still very much dominating the conversation. And the company said there will be no material financial impact for this year, but then mentioned a potential impact on net sales of about 1% in the first quarter. So that might be weighing on the shares a little bit. Analysts are saying that overall this is actually really solid results, though. The analysts at RBC said that this was an exemplary set of results from one of the highest quality companies in their coverage. But this infant formula issue, this volume weakness is clouding the outlook just a little bit. So that might be the focus for a little while longer.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.